switch it on over. Hello, hello. Hope y'all doing wonderful today. I kind of turn the music down a little bit here. There we go. We'll just kind of turn that down a bit. But anyways, I also just sit there and, let me know if the music's too loud or if, it's too quiet. I'm still kind of getting used to some of the setups on this kind of stuff. But, anyways, okay, maybe this was not on my side. Sorry, I know, literally just started up and now I'm just like, let me just keep readjusting all this. Okay, yeah, that was on my side, I think. That was actually kind of sounding a little too loud. Alright. Let me readjust this now. Yeah, there we go. I could probably just set it like that. Anyways. Yeah, so kind of just wanted to, check in, see how everybody's, kind of doing and all that kind of stuff. And then something I also kind of get a little more used to is kind of trying to intro into streams a little better. But I'll kind of go over that here in a bit too. For a while now, I've been sitting there kind of, wait, no, that's not, wow, I'm a little scatterbrained right now. Sorry about that. Yeah, I kind of wanted to go over a couple new things here. Well, nine, kind of like for a while here I've been saying that because of like some stuff that I had with like agreements with some of the people that work with outside of streaming and all that kind of stuff. I had to be a little careful on how I did a couple of things. Which was kind of strange that, these were kind of things that got wrote into some of that kind of stuff. But I did have a whole bunch of other stuff planned today that kind of got a little screwed up when, a bunch of my electronics wanted to end up going all wonky and stuff. But, yeah, well, it took some time, and, after finally, getting some of the stuff finished up, that stuff should no longer actually affect my streaming. Because, well, there was a lot of stuff in, like, like, NDAs and all that kind of stuff for, like, my music kind of stuff that, were worrying about my public image and all that fun stuff. Which kind of indirectly, we realized as we're sitting there kind of thinking about it, because, I'm streaming out onto Twitch, so that is like a live audience kind of thing, And, there was a certain level of, I don't know why they wanted to, have like that kind of. But anyways, yeah, it did end up mattering on what I sat there and said, or, what I did on stream and all that kind of stuff. Well, that stuff no longer really matters. Like after, we redid like the contracts and all that kind of stuff, I'm more free to just do whatever the hell I want, for kind of stream. I no longer need to, try to like speak in a certain clear way. It was kind of annoying when, I needed to also not overreact to stuff, which anybody that sat there and saw one of my last Monster Hunter streams, I don't know why, trying to catch that stupid dinosaur or dragon hatchling thing, I just wouldn't capture it. So yeah, I got a little pissed off, on stream, But it's a game, whatever. Yeah, just kind of, and they end up, trying to talk to me about that kind of thing, but yeah, now after getting things sorted out with that, technically, well, it was supposed to be something that was going to be announced during my business trip kind of thing that was supposed to be for like the music kind of stuff, but Uh, Now essentially, instead of working under like certain kind of like protocols and all that kind of stuff, I'm recognized as, like one of their independent vocalists as a VTuber also. Like, this doesn't serve outside of the whole thing, which also, one of the things I'm kind of happy about is that I no longer have to avoid doing things with, like, my model. Like, because there is a aspect of my model that's supposed to match with my lore, which that's something else I kind of need to work on getting straightened out. Is I know a lot of times with generally introducing yourself to people, all that kind of stuff. It's a good idea to have kind of like a synopsis. Now I'm getting tongue tied. A synopsis of essentially what your lore is, or a little summary of it. Anybody that knows I apparently wanted to just essentially adapted down a story that I wrote a while ago into a very short, like, version ish of that, but it's still a long lore story kind of thing. So I still need to figure out how to do a little kind of like breakdown of that kind of thing, which I might end up talking about that one a little bit later. I guess I tracked and lost track of what I was saying. Also, this is something else that, I don't know if it's just because I'm not worried about it anymore, but apparently, I also had to make sure that, I knew, I was consistent on, what I was saying every, like, kind of thing. Like, I couldn't get, my whole, like, ADHD kind of brain set. Well, I can't really call it that, just a little bit like a scatterbrain kind of, moments. I highly had to avoid those and all that kind of stuff. I don't need to end up, trying to hold myself to one octave. I can freely sing how the hell I want and all that kind of stuff now. So all that random kind of things that, now should end up, hopefully just allow me to just feel a little more like open and free to just do whatever kind of thing while I'm streaming. Although I will also mention at some point I do feel like I need to end up starting to do some kind of upgrades to that kind of stuff, because this whole tracking situation is starting to really annoy me. Like, I can't even follow my mouth fast enough. That or I just talk way too fast for it or something like that. But also it's a little kind of like crappy-ish kind of camera kind of thing. People will end up knowing when I actually do get my... Well, yeah, I was planning on actually having doing edits for the channel too. I don't know why I'm just staring at the camera right now. I'm just like, why did I end up buying that thing? Anyways. Well, because, like, I want to end up, hopefully this weekend, getting to actually, putting some stuff into place that's supposed to be, well, that I've already had, like, worked on. Like, there's actually a transition screen kind of thing that I'm supposed to have between, like, my starting, ending, and, BRB screens. I've had it for a while now, and I still haven't had the time before, just because I've been busy with so many other things, that I need to actually, like, this weekend, now that I have a little more, I should have a little more open time, I want to actually, get the panels in place and all that kind of stuff, which it will actually be kind of interesting to end up getting, the one up there and showing people just how Jimmy rigged my setup is here when it gets to the specs one. Because it's like, don't get me wrong, it's a good computer and I got a decent microphone and all that stuff, but just like the random, like, off-brand, like, cameras and all that kind of random stuff. I don't know, there's like certain that it just kind of feels a little weird that, yeah, there was some stuff that I've been wanting to do for a while. Like, well, the example for today was going to end up being, I was planning on actually trying to just have a stream where we're making music. I was gonna like pop open like band labs and like set up some other kind of stuff. Uh, actually, I should look into that a little bit more because yeah, I behind behind me or no, at my table off to the side here. Um, for a while there, while doing my music, I was actually using the Elgato Stream Deck XL for a lot of like the uh, kind of like effects and stuff like that. And I was trying to get some stuff programmed in. Well, was gonna try to set some stuff into it, but then randomly after my computer did some kind of update, I don't know why all my stuff that was on the Elgato now is it gone. Like it just like factory reset itself, and I'm like, okay. Bad part is I originally had someone else help me, originally get it set up and show me how everything worked. That I don't actually remember how to put, how I'm supposed to actually set things back up on it. And well, me and that person are no longer on good terms, so that'd be a little fun to try to figure that one out. But yeah, so I might not be able to end up doing anything with like kind of trying to make music on stream or anything like that at the moment. Uh, which that does kind of disappoint me because I have actually been wanting to do a lot more like music kind of stuff while just kind of like chilling on stream or something like that. Like if I was just had like a song in mind, I was sitting there trying to like just like get made and all that kind of stuff, just randomly do like little streams and stuff like that for them. But so yeah, I'm still kind of roughly trying to figure out what else I was going to end up doing, but there was also some other kind of effects and add-on kind of stuff that I was getting all set up, which I might have to re-figure out how to end up like doing those kind of things and all that. Because now that I don't have, well, as I was mentioning before, now that I don't have to worry about, like if I wanted to do some changes to my, VTuber model, I don't really have to worry about that anymore. Which means I can actually match up, kind of stuff that goes with my lore. And well, I did have more too, trying to introduce my little change to things here. But kind of just as a little thing of, kind of feel a little more free just to do whatever I want. Just kind of just finally can unlock, well, as, it's kind of, I know I really need to figure out, like, the summary to my lore and all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, even, in my lore, my crest activates, so they're allowing me to start, growing. And, the more people I meet and all that kind of stuff along the journey, the greater my power goes. And there's supposed to be a whole nother kind of like system kind of thing that does trigger off like kind of like text, well, yeah, TTS, text to speech kind of thing. Because, well, yeah, this is just my, well, as everything's supposed to go, this is only supposed to serve as like the beginning of my model. Now, granted, before I can actually do some of the other things that are supposed to come with this, because I'm gonna be honest, there's a huge list of toggles of stuff that I want to end up kind of doing. But unfortunately, I already kind of know there's kind of a limitation to how much this model will be able to do. That or I might have to sit there and kind of think more into it. Probably after I can hopefully get a little better like tracking kind of stuff, but I do want to at some point, kind of upgrade the model or have something like that because, well, with, as, as they're saying, my crest finally being unleashed, it starts to make it where, as I end up, growing bonds with people and all that kind of stuff, I can unlock various, augmentations as, sorry. I'm just kind of, it's been an interesting little bit here, just kind of coming, like, getting to this point and all that kind of stuff, so it's just kind of like, feeling a little freeing, but at the same time, it's a kind of like little random mix of like feelings and all that kind of stuff. But currently at where the kind of plans stand with what I'm trying to do here is I can well, marry on, well, certain conditions and all that kind of stuff. There's supposed to be like a little automatic like text to speech kind of thing that goes off to unlock various, well, essentially they're going to end up being toggles in a way or whatnot for different abilities, traits, transformations, all that kind of stuff. But that's going to be a little bit down the road here. Because I think I might end up trying to do a 2.0 model kind of thing before I end up getting to that point, but I feel like I need to probably gain a decent amount of traction before I end up trying to push for anything like that. But anyways, so yeah. Actually, no, I kind of feel like just leaving that on for the moment. Actually, I don't know, it might look a little off-putting on stream or something like that. It does look like it flickers a little weirdly on stream, but I don't know. But yeah, I was supposed to have like something else kind of like going there with that. But yeah, essentially, just wanted to end up letting people know that all, getting through all that kind of stuff recently, it's kind of sorting all that kind of stuff out and whatnot. I realize that I'm using a lot of random derogatory terms, but it is probably going to take a little while for me to get a little more used to just, not having to worry about, all the kind of random condition kind of things I've been under for a little while here with like all that like paperwork and all that kind of stuff, which stuff that we didn't actually realize until it all kind of like compounded on top of each other between all the different agreements and shit like that. But yeah, so at least there's that kind of thing going on there. Let's see, what else was I guess that they were mentioning. But yeah, I'm kind of actually starting to notice with all the random stuff I'm trying to end up doing, I'm really starting to feel like I might need to actually, stop trying to just do this all on my own. Because even when I'm sitting there looking up like random videos for stuff that, I end up getting confused on what the hell I'm doing wrong. Which, basically tech issue kind of shit. Like, I was sitting there trying to figure out how the hell to end up fixing the issues I was having with my Stream Deck. And every time I tried to, like, look online and sit there and see if someone could end up explaining what the issue was I was having. It's really annoying when, you sit there and think you found something that actually works with it. It's like, oh no, you see, but it has to be this product. It's like, I typed in exactly which one I wanted you to give me the solution to. But yeah, so I don't know. I might end up, having to probably ask some people that. See, that's always been something that's kind of interesting because nobody that I personally know actually knows that I even stream. So it's real interesting trying to ask them a question about, some kind of like tech if they might have having like an idea. But, generally they gotta know what you're using it for. So it's like, oh. Yeah. But yeah, I might have, although, strangely enough, just because I already know I'm probably gonna need to end up getting probably like my brother's input on some kind of like random tech kind of stuff. He might end up probably being the first one of the people that I end up playing no. He's gonna look at me really weird. But then hopefully he'll understand that I need help with like the tech kind of stuff. Which I believe I might be able to do a little bit more of that kind of stuff a little more recently because, well, as all the other kind of stuff has been going on, this last week I ended up finding out that this trip I've been saving for, and trying to carefully, maneuver all my finances and all that kind of stuff to make sure that, I could cover whatever expenses that, would end up coming, whether it be, from like, flights to hotels, travel, needing to eat, if I wind up doing something on the trip. Yeah. The, the whole trip got canceled. So I'm like, now I kind of feel like a little bit of, well, feel kind of bad because I've had people that wanted to do some work with me, for stuff for the channel and all that. You know, and I've had to sit there and tell them like, sorry, I can't really afford anything at the time. And now it's like, well, now that's kind of canceled. Although honestly, with everything that's been going on, I still feel like I might want to hold back a little bit of those like the funds and all that kind of stuff, and I might just want to take a personal trip somewhere. I don't know yet. Oh, there is still a chance, because we're still working through some stuff with, the issues that came up with, why the whole trip was being canceled and all that kind of stuff. We're still trying to reschedule that kind of stuff, so I don't know. We'll end up kind of seeing with that. But I might end up reaching out to some of those people and, ask them if they can end up helping with, well, if, like, they're out here, like, still staying with, like, some stuff. Because I do want to end up, it probably would be a good initiative to actually probably get, make sub badges and stuff like that, because, I am hoping at, some point when, I'm a little more settled in to just kind of being me, people end up, wanting to kind of like stop by, sub and all that kind of stuff. Even if they don't, I mean, it's still kind of nice just to have, people end up just kind of like swinging by and, hanging out more. Not feeling like I have to end up, trying to act a certain way to appease people or anything like that. Now, what was the other thing I wanted to kind of cover here? Because I already got all that kind of stuff right. Oh yeah, I was sort of saying that I needed to like kind of try to figure out some point to summarize my lore and all that. Which, that's really kind of complicated in a way. Sorry, as I'm like just sitting back in my chair. Because, I mean, like I said, it ended up turning out to be like a little bit longer of a story than I originally planned. Which, I mean, yeah, kind of covers from, being born into, well, I'm actually kind of realizing how corny of probably a start to that thing it probably had. You know, being born into a cursed fate and all that kind of stuff. But you know, originally starting off, you know, kind of like powerless, but you know, being a child of a dragoon and dragon. Uh, Going through life, you know, getting help from all those around him until, you know, one day, you know, having I end up, you know, just looking over at the screen. I'm like, why is my dude blinking so much? uh, yeah, one day, you know, having like well, during, like, while sleeping, you know, sitting there meeting like a divine being that, you know, gives a warning of, you know, some calamities to come and to seek out, you know, those that around him that share in this fate. You know, you'll end up knowing them by, you know, the mark they bear, aka the crest. But although technically the original one wasn't designed. Actually, let me see if I can just kind of zoom in here. On the, hey, there we go. Yeah, this crest. Let me lower him down some. Yeah, this crest. But strangely enough, this one is actually a different kind of design from the one I originally had kind of came up with. Uh, but yeah, that kind of just goes along a little more towards like the end. As you can kind of tell, I'm not exactly a dragoon. You know, having only like dragon features and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna turn the crest back on. Just I was like, I'm gonna wait till at least get back away from the screen before I turn that back on. Although I do actually like the little fine details on that. Oh, one second. Yeah, because you can like see the small little indented areas between. But yeah, as I was kind of like noticing when I got a little closer to it, I'm like, yeah, that does kind of look a little bright. Yeah. But I know it's probably a little weird that I'm excited about just a small little thing that's, you know, changed to my to my VTuber model. But yeah, so trying to recollect my thought there. What was I saying beforehand? Why'd I have to get sidetracked? Okay, but oh right, I was going over the lore. That's how I ended up getting sidetracked there. But yeah, you know, so they like each were granted a mark, which okay, wait a minute, I can't remember it because I've had to read back over my. It's kind of weird when I have to read back over my own lore, just because I have to remember how I, you know, chopped it down and all that kind of stuff from the original story. Which that still kind of annoys me that I. Well, it's probably a good thing I didn't actually have the original story all the way through because, oh my god, I gave. It's like, yeah. I sat there and tried to open up that file, and it's like, yeah, nothing like, you know, I believe it was 1,283 blank pages. Just because, you know, the fucking. It's like the file held the, you know, pages, but apparently all the text just gone. But yeah, so summarizing something like that big down to roughly like, well, I had to break it into like 29 sections when I was in there trying to post up the lore on Reddit and all that, which I need to find out somewhere else, like one of the other social medias, which I also need to get that updated in my social media accounts, because now a little more recently, I now actually have an Instagram and a Blue Sky also, along with the YouTube, Reddit. I don't really count Twitter anymore, and I really do know I need to probably use that account more, but I just haven't. I'm still trying to get used to going on to my social medias a little bit more. I love how I didn't even include the Discord and everything I was talking about. But, oh, right. Again, got sidetracked. Uh, so yeah, after, during sleeping, I, well, according to the lore, sat there and, encountered that whole kind of meeting thing, got that warning and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, I'm terrible at describing this kind of stuff because I really need to find a better summary of that whole thing. Had that divine meaning then. And there's a lot of stuff that I sit there and go back to the village. They sit there and try to give them a warning of, some kind of calamity to come, or oh god, I really need to read, because I was trying to remember, wait, was it that, or was it because the guardian of the village? Again, good point on there being too much descriptors, because, well, this is only the first 2 paragraphs of this whole damn thing. Okay, so yeah, I end up meeting with they end up sitting there asking how I know information or something like that. So they're basically, I sit there and prove myself. I end up meeting with the guardian, and he sits there and tells me about some information from my past. Find out about my father being the previous guardian and all that kind of stuff. And, which I'm pretty sure a lot of that stuff could end up just being summarized, me sitting there saying, after, after a peaceful, upbringing, of, in my, from my previous life or something like that. Like I said, I really need to figure out how to summarize that a little better. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I could skip a lot of those small detail kind of things and a little summary of my lore. But yeah, that goes on. I just realized it probably looks like I'm reading it on the screen, but I'm literally just trying to figure out why everything looks a little off on my model and all that. Or, just kind of getting a better feel of how the model moves around. I just realized I heard this for a year, and I just now noticed that the strings on the hoodie are at different lengths. The strings is slightly off. Give me a second to actually get something to drink. Well, drink something. Okay, I also need to just double check the music real quick. Oh, okay, no, I still got so just for some background music, I just have some cyberpunk ish kind of like uh, like metal, like synth metal or something. I don't know. It just sounded real interesting. I was like, yeah, that sounds like some good background music. Just make sure it's copyright free, so I could just yammer on it over it. But yeah, I really don't know how to actually try to summarize down the whole story kind of thing. Cause yeah, it's like I end up, having that dream thing, sit there, meet with the guardian, start off on a journey, meet one of the other, bearers of like the crest. We end up, making some, well, us and our companions sit there and try to fight what we thought was imminent threat, which just turned out to be nothing till we end up meeting another one of the bears as we end up getting pulled out of that world as it's being crushed and, consumed before learning, truly how wide the whole thing is. Then it basically starts a whole, like, multi-dimensional journey to try to end up, fighting against like an evil demonic kind of force that's trying to end up, consuming this one from. I really went sci-fi-ish on this kind of shit because I was like, yeah, we're jumping between a whole bunch of different like realms slash worlds in like this whole like universe thing that makes up its own dimension that we're fighting against a force that's invading from another dimension that they ended. I might have to just read back over that. Yeah, it just kind of like shows how how that ended up kind of going because yeah, like I said, this was all from like a story slash like book kind of thing though, so they're writing over like several years and all that kind of stuff. And I can kind of tell there was probably more or less well, technically it started off that way, and then I basically was just going off of somewhat of memory because when my old computer just kind of like crapped out on me, which I can kind of understand why that ended up happening. I know shortly before I even started streaming, I sat there and had been testing out a whole bunch of like different programs, and that computer was like from like 2018-ish kind of time. I think I paid like $300 for the computer. So it wasn't really fancy, and I was sitting there trying to, run my, well, it doesn't really seem like much and all that kind of stuff till, you sit there and load up like your model onto there with like the, uh, well, I was sitting there running like Streamlabs and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, I didn't realize how limited the graphics card was, I believe is probably the best way to end up playing that. I'm pretty sure I've sat there mentioned on the stream before that, well, just kind of like in a passing comment, my old computer, like the graphics card, when my brother tried to help me figure out what the hell to end up, doing with it, like the graphics card had like scorch marks on the back. Well, because I'm guessing probably just from like overheating and shit like that. And yeah, the reason my computer like crashed out on me was, well, apparently like part of the motherboard kind of like burnt out, but it still functioned enough to actually, kind of pull it together. I don't know, I might end up deciding all these times to end up, well, because strange enough I still held on to it just because I'd end up putting some new stuff into it just to get it to how long till I end up getting this computer. I think that was like a month and a half later. So I didn't really think I wanted to end up like chucking that computer, but if I had the plan for that, I'd have. I don't know. I keep trying to think about just kind of turn it into a giant like memory bank kind of thing. Just see if there's a way that I could sit there and just put a bunch of like hard drives and shit in there and just use it for like storing all my files. But at the same time, I'm like, it might end up just being cheaper just to end up buying a like big, uh, like just big hard drive for the computer. I don't know. It's also one of those things where since I'm still paying off up, well, because this one's technically a pre-built. Since I'm still paying it off, it's like I don't really want to start just doing modifications to it myself. I don't know why it feels weird that I realize I've been just yammering on for 40 minutes. Just because I'm so used to normally it's like, oh, we'll just talk real quick. Unless I normally have something like planned out to sit there and just talk about. I don't know, just oh, it feels a little slightly different than normal. Which don't get me wrong, I'd actually love to sit there and just kind of like chat a whole bunch. Just kind of like get to know those, out in the community, what they've been up to, how it's going. But yeah, still need to, get a couple more regular, chatters in here and all that. We, but don't get me wrong, I always enjoy, like having people just lurking in out there too. But yeah, so it might take some time, but hopefully I can actually just get used to just feeling free to just act whatever way. Probably probably end up noticing me being a little bit more of like a goofball or like doing something weird during like a video game. Just trying to have random fun with it. But yeah, so yeah, I think I basically kind of covered most of the stuff I wanted to just kind of chat about. Uh, hmm. I don't know, I think I might just try to find it, figure out a game or something like that to probably just play for a little bit here. Because I do actually have plans a little later today, I just don't 100%. They're kind of like just floating plans, I don't really know exactly when they're supposed to start or end. Yeah, so that's about it. Um, I'm gonna switch over to be right back and get things kind of changed over for a game. Just still kind of figuring out what to end up playing.